So we're like on the cusp of completely doing reactions. So we're almost there. So let's talk about some terminology. So the first thing is chemistry reactions have a solvent. So the solvent's the liquid. A lot of the time you'll take a solid and you'll dissolve it in something. It doesn't have to be water, but in general chemistry it is. But you'll dissolve it in something and then maybe it'll turn a color or something. And then you add that to maybe another solid that's been dissolved in something. And then they mix and they make something new. Most of the time, you don't take like a little pile of solid and put it with another pile of solid and then expect it to do something and make a new pile of solid. That's not how chemistry generally works. Has to do with forces, and when you put stuff in water, it kind of makes a lot of reactions happen more easily. Same for if you put it in other solvents too. So, but in general chemistry, the solvent that you have is going to be water. And again, I'm not saying that you can't do a solid-solid reaction. Sometimes you can. You can do solid-liquid reactions. You can do gas-gas reactions. You can do all of those. It's just, this is general chemistry, and we're talking about water reactions. So this is a word that will surprise people. A precipitate. So when we're a precipitate. So precipitate is one way to say it when we're talking about it as a noun. It's like what you make in a reaction that is a solid. Now this is weird because in weather, precipitate means rain and stuff, right? So in this case, though, it's a little bit different, and this is a solid. So yeah, you're just gonna have to like reframe that word in your head, precipitate. And if you are forming a solid, you can say it's a precipitate, precipitation reaction. So the way we indicate something makes a solid is we just add the little symbols on the side with, it's right here with the S. That's how we know something makes a solid. We will also say that it's, that it is insoluble. And when something's insoluble, the way it looks in a liquid, if we take one of those same liquids, if it's insoluble in it, then it means that it's going to be like a pile. Sometimes it's like little tiny floating specks. I'm going to do it with the white here. Sometimes it just looks like itty bitty cloudy little specks in the water. So it can look like that. Or sometimes it looks like a little pile of little like white specks, or it could be red specks or black specks, but it looks like a little pile of something on the bottom, and that is going to be our solid. So if you are making something like that, those white things are what is not dissolving in water. You learn a whole lot more about things dissolving in Gen Chem 2. So what is insoluble? What does this mean? Again, it means that the ions in the salt stay together. It means they're not so attracted by the water that the water will pull them apart. So maybe an ion that we might look at for this would be like iron oxide. This is one where these two ions, they're fairly strongly bonded there, and water's not going to pull them apart. And so we would put an S here, and it would look just like a little pile of something at the bottom. You would never be able to get it to dissolve in the water. So it's really important to know that soluble is when the ions stay together. Insoluble is when the ions stay together. So then what is a soluble solid? Well, this is when ions will break apart in water. And when the ions break apart, it makes it just easier for the reaction to happen. And again, like I said, we do a lot of reactions where we start with things that are dissolved in water. So this would be an example like NaCl, salt. You know that one is something that dissolves in water. And when it dissolves, it breaks apart into Na plus and Cl minus. And we use an AQ for this one. So a soluble solid is when ions break apart. It means that they dissolve in the water. Another word that you might hear us say is that something dissociates. When it breaks apart, these ions break apart. Another word is dissociate. All right, so what is a gas? Well, that's the bubbles, things that have bubbles. Usually you can see the bubbles. Sometimes it'll form a gas that dissolves into the liquid, and you'll just see a few bubbles. Sometimes you'll see a lot of bubbles. And so gases, they can be soluble in water, but most of the time, if you form a gas, you will see some bubbles. Sometimes you have to watch carefully. So you've got a lab about this. This is kind of like a general chemistry all the time. We love doing these labs where you look for, do you make a gas or do you make a solid? Do you make something dissolved? So what happens if you have a sealed container and you're doing a reaction, it produces so much gas that it won't dissolve in the water anymore? What do you think? Well, eventually, if it just keeps producing gas and you've got a container, either the lid will pop off of the container or the container itself will just explode. Gases are very, very strong. You'll learn more about gases soon, but you have to be very careful when you know you're producing a gas. Is it an issue when you make a solid? It's not so much of an issue when you make a solid, because the solid is just sitting there. It doesn't take up much more space. It's not like there's a lot of pressure that gets involved with the solid. So hopefully this terminology is going to help a lot. We are going to talk about salts and whether or not they are soluble or insoluble, and we are going to talk about how things dissolve. And so that's what you're looking at when you're looking at these.